everybody, this is Laura Susan Johnson. I'm sorry I'm talking so softly. I'm outside on this crisp fall morning. I think it's October 17th. And today I'm going to review the movie May, directed by Lucky McKee, who has gone on to direct a lot of movies I haven't seen yet. Since I haven't really followed him beyond the movies May, Roman, which wasn't directed by him. I'll talk about that in a second. And then The Woods. I didn't realize he's got so much under his belt at this point. Who actually did a project with Angela Bettis, the main actor from May. He traded places with her, and she directed him in a movie called Roman, which honestly haven't seen yet. I've seen parts of it, and it looks amazing, and I'm sure she's an excellent director. I love Angela Bettis. Angela Bettis, for those of you who do not know who she is probably today's modern horror maven. She went on to do a remake of Carrie, which I liked, and fuck you if you don't like it. I don't really give a shit. I mean, I bought the DVD because I liked it that much. It was a TV movie, and I think it was a little closer to Stephen King's book than Sissy Spacek's version in 1976. Both movies are excellent, and I never have watched any of these other Carrie movies. This other Carrie remake that was done, yet again, there was another Carrie remake, and I haven't bothered. Angela Bettis captured that role very well. May is a one-of-a-kind movie, in my opinion. And I hate saying this, but a lot of people do refer to May, those who have seen it anyway, as the original Manic Pixie Dream Girl movie. I don't know if I'd go that far. But May is definitely a character that you fall in love with within 5 minutes of beginning this movie. She is your protagonist, no matter how the movie progresses, and in spite of how the movie ends, May is your protagonist. She is somebody that you love until the, what I would call, bittersweet ending. It's unbearably romantic as a movie, because May is an unbearable romantic, although she is so inexperienced. She, because of her parents, and mainly her mother, but because of her mother, and because she has a lazy eye, which a lot of people have. But somehow her mother made her wear an eye patch because she wanted to hide that imperfection. She wanted May to be perfect. And in doing that to May, she really hurt May and really kind of destroyed May's vision, destroyed May's concept of what beautiful is. Forcing your child to wear an eye patch, and then, you know, with little kids, they have no clue how to treat each other unless you teach them. And unfortunately, in May's school, she was outcast. She was called a pirate. No one wanted to play with her, and she grew up so lonely and so isolated from ever wanting to connect with people. So as she enters adulthood, she manages to get an education of sorts. You cannot become a veterinarian's surgical assistant without educating yourself. And I mean, I don't mean reading books and saying, hey, I want the job. She went to school somewhere, and she got a degree. May is a veterinarian's assistant. She likes to make her own clothing. And she has a very special friend in her house that's been with her since childhood. Her mother gave it to her. It is a doll by the name of Susie. Susie's been named one of the creepiest dolls in cinematic history. Susie is not a live doll, but May talks to Susie as though she is a living person, just unable to come out of her little glass case. But she talks to her, she confides in her, and she tells her that she saw a very good-looking boy in town, and she loves how beautiful his hands are. She also loves how beautiful the rest of him is, and that's Jeremy Sisto. He plays a guy named Adam, who May looks at from a distance, but does not approach until much later. Basically, she stalks him. She follows him around. She follows him to a place, some kind of eatery of some kind, and it's really kind of creepy, but at the same time, it's May. You already know who May is. You know she's harmless at this point. Just a girl who's fallen in love with somebody from a distance and wants to get to know that person. And she does things that are awkward, inappropriate, but at the very same time innocent, very innocent. Didn't mean any harm, didn't mean to offend. She sees his hands, he falls asleep at the table. I don't know how anybody can fall asleep in a restaurant, but he falls asleep at the table. And she puts her face on his hand that happens to be sitting up the way he falls asleep, and she tries to pet herself with it. And, you know, a lot of people would say fucking crackpot, but it's May. If you watch this movie, if you've seen this movie, you understand. May is May. She's not offending you, the audience. She's startling you a little bit, and she's making you ask questions, but it's like, why don't you just talk to the guy? Just introduce yourself, say hi. But she's painfully shy. She's painfully insecure because of the way her mother treated her. And she, in spite of corrective contacts that make her eye look a hell of a lot more even, less lazy, she still has that. It's like a fat kid who lost weight, who was teased painfully. It doesn't matter, you still carry that with you. You may have lost weight, you may be more attractive to people, more approachable to people. You're probably improved on those chances because of her contacts, her ability to blend in and socialize will probably be improved, but she still carries with her mother's cruel message, her unspoken cruel message that if you're not perfect, you gotta hide. If you have an imperfection, you have to hide it. But I know why she hasn't had a boyfriend at this point, because she is just too traumatized. She's too withdrawn into herself. She's too embedded in the fantasy world that she's created because of her perception of imperfection versus perfection. She tries to communicate with him by touching her face to his hand, and he wakes up and he looks at her like, what the fuck? And she runs away before he can even, attempt to say, what who are you? What's going on? What are you doing? She hasn't molested him, really, but she has crossed a boundary that you usually don't cross with total strangers. So, anyway, little by little, she sees him in a laundromat, and she strikes up a conversation with him very shyly, awkwardly, painfully, but they sort of, immediately hit it off. He thinks she's really sweet and pretty and quirky, just quirky enough, or so he thinks, to think, well, maybe I should give this girl a chance. And he does. It doesn't work out too well. He shows her an independent student film that he made at university, and it is a really funny movie. It's basically a couple who goes to a picnic. It's called Jack and Jill, and it's really one of the most brilliant touches that Lucky McKee added to this movie, is that this concept, Adam is a weirdo too, and he's kind of a gorehound. He loves Dario Argento. He shows her his shrine to Dario Argento. He shows her his independent film about this very attractive couple having a picnic. They're drinking wine, and I begin to say to myself, where's the food? Well, why don't you just watch it and see? It's hilarious. May gets kind of an extreme perception of Adam, that he may be into certain things, and when they attempt to, be intimate for the first time, things don't go very well because of her misunderstanding that he may be a weirdo, but he's not so weird that you take it at face value and you try to reenact that cute little movie he made. So he gets very creeped out. He gets very frightened of her, and he rejects her, and it crushes her. It crushes her heart. She just loved him so much, and I think he was just getting to where, this girl is capturing my heart, and I'm thinking maybe this might work. But then this terrible misunderstanding, miscommunication, misinterpretation of what he's about. He's just, there's those who play with things, and then there's those who are really those kind of things. And so May is just over the edge enough psychologically to where she really thought, hey, I'm willing to do, I'm up for anything, If he likes to play with blood during sex, yeah, let's try it. And she injures him pretty severely. You can still see the scar in a later scene. He's completely traumatized, frightened, just like, this girl is dangerous. She's psychotic. There's something deeply wrong. I've got to get out of this. And it breaks her heart. It really breaks her heart. You understand, if you're open-minded, you understand that he's not a dick. He's just terrified. He's suddenly terrified. He's like, uh-oh, what did I stumble into over here? And she is just this innocent, fledgling psychotic. The doll begins to talk to her, and it's not this doll talks, it's a supernatural doll. This is her hearing the doll. All you hear is cracking noises, like glass cracking slowly. She hits the doll's case after things go so badly with Adam, and breaks it and cuts her arm, or cuts her hand, and that's the beginning of, I think, her cracking, her sanity beginning to crack. She's desperately trying to connect. She's desperately trying to have a life that is different than her childhood, and it's not going well. So Adam avoids her. He sees her again at the laundromat, but he's so afraid of her, he just has to bail. He leaves. In the meantime, there's this receptionist, this really, sexy, flamboyant receptionist at the veterinarian clinic, Polly, played by Anna Faris, and she's so funny and so hilarious and really sexy. And she is gay. So she's got her her eye on May. She's new to the place, so May's been there a while. She got hired as a receptionist, so as soon as she, gets to know May at the office, she starts to say to herself, hey, this chick is really cute. Tentatively, Polly and May begin a relationship. At first, it's mostly just friendship, but one night after the Adam fiasco, as I would call it, Polly calls May and says, why don't you come over and visit me? I'm sitting here in my nightie. And she's just really suggestive and over the top, and it's really funny. Anna Faris really is a genius. She was cast perfectly in this role. And May does go over, and they talk for a while, and then, Polly begins to try to seduce, and eventually she does seduce May. And May has always, as with Adam's hands being really beautiful masculine hands, May likes the way that Polly's neck is so graceful and slender. But then when they're making out, maybe having sex, May notices a birthmark on Polly's hand and says, man, these are not Adam's hands. And she begins this thing where it's like, I like parts of people, but once I get to know the whole of people, I don't like their imperfections. And this is directly from her mother. This is directly from her childhood. She asks Polly, have you ever thought about getting this birthmark removed? And it's like, well, no, it's just a birthmark. It's not cancerous. It's not melanoma. It's just a birthmark. And our imperfections are what make us special. And May is like, not the way I was taught. Poor May. She's just so misinformed. From what little you see of Kevin Gage, he does great. He's not in charge, though. He is not the dominant parent. The mother is clearly just kind of a tyrant, a very subtle tyrant. As you see May develop, you just know that her mother fucked her up big time. Fucked any chances of her having a normal life. This is a deep character study. We are reviewing a horror film, though. It's not that I'm not reviewing a horror film, but this is not your typical horror film. It's got its macabre stuff. It's got its unnerving, jolting stuff. It's got plenty of gore. But it's not your typical horror film. And I am not a horror connoisseur, so this is the reason why May appeals to me, because it is not your typical slash 'em up, obligatory tit shots, cute girls out at Camp Crystal Lake getting slaughtered and boys getting slaughtered and no characterization. This is a super duper character study. And Adam and Polly are every bit as integral to this movie as May. May is the titular character. You're with her every moment. It is all from her point of view for the most part. Well, it really is all from her point of view, but, when she's listening in on other people talk, especially Adam, you see his point of view and you understand it. So, May and Polly end up in a relationship, but it isn't too much longer that May realizes Polly is just a player. She goes to visit Polly unannounced. I guess Polly likes to be informed when somebody's coming over. She doesn't scold May, of course, but she says, oh, I'd love to talk with you, May. I'd love to get together with you, but I've got company. And as May looks inside the house, she sees these beautiful, gorgeous, sleek legs. And she says, wow, to herself. She says, those are some gorgeous legs. Who do they belong to? And shortly she meets Ambrosia, played hilariously by Nicole Hiltz. The supporting cast of this movie is just fun. They're just fun characters, even if you don't get to know everything about them. The ancillary characters, such as Ambrosia, played by, Nicole Hiltz, and Hoop, played by Nora Zettener. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering your name. And Blank, played by James Duval, and the Armenian, veterinarian, played by Ken Davidian. So she sees these legs. She knows Polly's not a one-woman gal. So it kind of breaks May's heart. Not quite as badly as Adam, but that's when May begins to say to herself, I guess there's just no such thing as a friend for me. She sees Adam later on, and she tells Adam she understands why he can't be with her. They're just different people. But she has designs on those hands. She's got big plans for those hands, you know what I mean? So, she meets Ambrosia, who is, like I said, May and Ambrosia are just two of Polly's probably many bitches. And Ambrosia's a bitch to her. Freak! She does not like May. She thinks May is, not worthy of Polly's attention. May also has this adorable cat that Polly had given to her called Loopy. Well, one day Loopy's not in the mood to be sociable, and May is painfully in need of some companionship, somebody just to talk to. She kind of hates Susie the doll at this point, and she needs Maddie to acknowledge her. Like, Maddie, I've had a rough few days. Please come here and let me pet you. And please show me a little affection. And the cat actually hisses and walks away like, screw you, I got other shit to deal with right now. And so May kills her, and it's not a gory, graphic, horrifying animal cruelty kind of death. It's just a quick, she hurls a heavy object at her, an ashtray, and she hits her in the head and kills her. And it's sad, and May she regrets it, but it's just another little step over the cliff, It's another step over the cliff into total insanity. Crazy, not stupid. Let's remember that. Crazy, not stupid. May has always loved that beautiful gray fur of Maddie's, so you can guess. Before Loopy's death, May goes to volunteer at a school for blind kids. And, she meets one blind kid who naturally wants to reject her, named Petey, played by Rachel David. And Petey doesn't take to her either. She's just very standoffish until one day when May brings Susie for show and tell to show to the kids. This is my doll, Susie. Something terrible happens, goes wrong, completely wrong, and we have another death in the family. Basically, it's Susie's death. In their effort to reach out and touch the doll, these blind kids grab the case out of May's hands, and it breaks, it shatters everywhere. The doll is broken because it was made out of, I guess, some very fragile porcelain or something. I don't know. So May's lost Loopy, she's lost Susie, she's lost Adam, she's lost Polly, and things get kind of gory from there. She meets Blank, played by James Duval. He has a very small role in this, but he is just a hoot. He has Frankenstein tattooed to his shoulder, and May tells him, I love your tattoo. And so he comes to her house, and I think he thinks he's going to get laid. He's just like, oh man, it's hot in here. Can I have some ice cubes rub on my nipples? And May, it's like, no, don't go to the freezer. Don't go to the freezer. And that is the beginning of May making a new friend named Amy. I won't tell you anymore. I've talked long enough. And this is a Halloween movie. A lot of the climax takes place on Halloween night. May basically decides that she's going to go as Susie for Halloween. She makes a dress that's very close to what Susie was wearing inside her glass case, and she begins her quest. A quest for fun. She begins her quest to make her ideal friend. Everything from the set design by Leslie Keel to Lucky McKee's direction to this really wonderful, eclectic score. There's contributors like, the Breeders, the Kim Deal 6000, but mostly James Laquette, however she wants to be known these days. She was affiliated with music groups called Poperatic and Alien Tempo Experiment 13. And the music is just wonderful. There's Prowler, there's Frocks, there's Made to Love You, which is the absolute theme. There are 4 notes. La, 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 la. And she puts several different spins on those 4 notes, but mainly the song Made to Love You at the end, during the end credits. That is the ultimate theme song for May, and it has those 4 notes. And it was the first time that I thought, man, what a well-rounded little movie with music and everything. For horror, I thought, man, this is the greatest horror movie I have probably seen since John Carpenter's The Thing, which is actually sci-fi horror. May is just straight-up horror. It has other subgenres, which I'll put in my playlists and stuff, but mainly May is a bona fide horror film. It's a bona fide portrait of a girl who becomes so desperate that she loses her sanity. Angela Bettis has gone on to do other horror movies such as The Toolbox Murders and some others. I think one of them's called The Woman, and I think that's also directed by Lucky McKee, and I haven't seen that. And Jeremy Sisto has done plenty of horror movies himself. He was in Wrong Turn, the first Wrong Turn, before it became this horrific franchise. And he was in Dead and Breakfast, which is actually very comedic, a spin on the zombie genre, kind of like Shaun of the Dead in America. So Jeremy Sisto and Angela Bettis became, in my mind at least, the Scream King and Scream Queen, the power couple of the horror genre. So I highly recommend May, please, for Halloween especially. If you want a refreshing movie that you haven't seen before, for Halloween, a refreshing spin on the macabre, but also this wonderful character study where you actually love everything about this titular character. No matter what she does, you still love her. May, 10 out of 10 stars. I absolutely adore this film.